Hey everybody, Dobbin here from GetUWired. Welcome to another exciting edition of Cabin Signal with our tribute to experience. Today I have an extra special guest, a friend of mine of over a decade now. So Chris Austin has been a friend of mine and a contemporary. He is an expert marketer, an expert developer, an expert visionary in regards to all things that you would think GetUWired are experts at. Developing SaaS platforms, supporting other businesses. Chris has been around for a long time. Chris and I met in the Infusionsoft ecosystem. And since I've had the distinct pleasure of having Chris as a client, as a team member, as a fellow mastermind attendee member for quite some time, and we have just quite a lot of time spent together, and I've just admired him. He's one of the smartest guys in the industry that I've had the opportunity to be friends with and to learn from. And it's a real credit to an agency when people that are of equal knowledge, stature, or even more so in Chris's case, come to you and ask you for support. So it's been a real joy. And today what we're going to talk about is Practice Boom and our experience with Chris's service that's oriented towards the legal industry. We've had a lot of success. Chris's vision, direction, design, years of research and implementation have really made his vision come to fruition in a world-class solution for today's legal marketing. And another thing is that what we'll be talking today about is immigration, specific legal marketing in regards to what we've worked on together, but it's really fascinating. The multifaceted aspect of all the touch points, different things that are going on in this system. For those of you that are developing out automated systems for your business, or have a design or desire to do so in the future, pay close attention. Pay close attention to the way that Chris thinks. Pay close attention to the way he saw a problem and the way that he's found solutions. It's incredible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, Chris Austin. Welcome, wow. Chris.
Thank you, Dobbin. That is more than generous. And out of all the stuff that you said, I almost cringed when you said that I'm a developer, as most other developers would as well, because I'm not a coder. I have done some code in the past, but in the early days of my working with Infusionsoft and selling it to clients and selling off the capabilities that it would have, I discovered to really do a lot of the things that I wanted it to do for my clients would require the Infusionsoft API. You can really unlock a lot of potential when you use the API. As you well know, your whole cabin there is filled with people who are expert developers on the Infusionsoft API. And now as you expand to other platforms, other APIs as well. So I tried to outsource some projects early on and found that developers would get things about 80% of the way done and then just disappear on me. And so in order to complete some projects, I did have to teach myself enough coding and enough about the API just to get them done so that I could deliver a project to a client. And it was difficult at the time, but it really paid off a lot of dividends in the long term as a consultant, because I was able to, the more I got into it, the more I was able to communicate better my needs to developers. And then I finally found some developers that would stick around long enough to complete things. And then we were able to really tap into some magic with what we could do with Infusionsoft. But thank you so much for that very generous introduction.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, and when I do say developer or coder, what I really mean is Chris knows how to boss around coders. Like he knows how to run some coders. I promise you that, you know, he has a vision. He knows what he wants very specifically. And, you know, and he is able to articulate his vision in a technical manner that registers with the mindset of today's nerdy coders, like the crew here at the GetUWired cabin. So, Um, great. Why don't we go back in time a little bit? So I wanted to talk about the project that we have worked on, the multifaceted project that we've been honored to work with you on for some time, and give a little bit of history, because I think that not only is the project itself super interesting, but the content of the project, being immigration law and what it serves and who it serves, is also a very timely topic in this day and age, you know, about being able to care for and help the people that have wound up in this country that very well may have to leave. Ultimately, this software really facilitates a methodology of serving people and helping them to stay in the United States and to follow their dreams. So why don't you go back a little ways for me?
Sure. So you're talking specifically about my largest client, and they do have a few immigration law firms that we all run through Infusionsoft. A lot of stuff, a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the systems that we have built are not specific to a particular practice area. They could be used by any attorney doing any sort of practice area. So we'll talk about that. But I would, if you want to touch on some of the things that tend to be specific for immigration law, a couple aspects are that we've had some challenges with the target market is largely Spanish-speaking immigrants who don't necessarily have an email address. And so that presents challenges in the areas of keeping duplicate contacts out of the system, and also communicating, because Infusionsoft is largely, it's a marketing automation platform with kind of the understanding that email is going to be a big thing that you're going to be doing. Well, we only get email addresses from less than half of the people that come into the system. And even those that we do have an email address for, they really prefer to communicate either with a person or via text message. And so we built a lot of our campaigns, or the other one would be direct mail for certain client updates about their case. So let's see, what's interesting about those things? Help me out here.
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I think is fascinating in the digital age, when we're talking about marketing automation, when we're talking about, you know, all the tools at our disposal as agency or as developers, now, particularly with this immigration law, we want to interconnect with people that aren't necessarily connected. They aren't wired. We're GetUWired. We help people get wired, but not everybody's wired to begin with, right? So I think that
or they'll be wired, but in a different way than other markets. Like, it's interesting. We know that our target market is active on Facebook. So they probably have an email address. They just don't check that email address. And for whatever reason, they might be reluctant to give it up. So, and then there are the folks who simply aren't wired because like they don't care about technology. They don't want the technology, either because they're of a certain age or a certain income level or something like that. So there are very distinct groupings. So that can kind of take the conversation in a couple of different ways, because there's all kinds of cool tools that you can use now, and you're helping many of your clients implement these tools to communicate via text messages, and to communicate via things like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or WeChat. You just had an interview recently with the guy from Titan Nutrition, and he talked about how you guys are using ManyChat to do a lot of Facebook marketing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I won't repeat that, but that's like a very good up and coming tool, and is a great way. It's a great thing to incorporate into your marketing mix. But down the other end of the spectrum, where we have folks that truly don't have an email address and we need to stay in touch with them, we've built some campaigns that will take a look at, do we have a valid email address for this person or not? And if we do, we go ahead and we send them an email. And if we don't, we will send them a physical mail letter, because we want them to be notified about something proactively. My client does such a high volume of business. And the nature of the cases is that they can stretch on for a period of years. And so early on, we were retaining a lot of different clients and we were working hard on their cases, but the clients felt like they were just sending in their money and nothing was happening. They didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. And that was on us. We weren't communicating enough with them to let them know proactively, hey, we've reached this milestone in your case, or this thing has happened. We sent this over to the government, or hey, we've received word back from the government that they actually received your stuff. And so they were calling in a lot. They were like, hey, what's going on with my case? What's going on with my case? And they were getting so many phone calls inbound that it was really slowing down the paralegal's ability to get anything done. Plus, if they reach the point where they're making these phone calls, they're probably already a little bit irritated that they have to make the phone call in the first place. So the client was a little bit worried about customer satisfaction. So we built in, because we didn't have the ability to send emails, it's like, well, why don't we go ahead and send a physical mail letter every time their case reaches a certain milestone. We'll send out this physical mail letter or an email, depending on what we have. And almost immediately, complaints dropped really low. Client satisfaction went up really high. But the business ROI on it was we started getting referrals from those people to their friends and family. And so it had a really good benefit there.
Yeah, and just to give our audience an indication of where the technology that was all behind your vision occurred, there was a substantial amount of revenue change. Can you share on this, sort of where we started and where we went to? Is that acceptable?
Sure. So my client had a law firm that was about a year to a year and a half old when he reached out to me. Everything was managed on spreadsheets, and they did have one application that they were using to help them automate the filling out of government forms, but it wasn't doing anything for them on the CRM side: lead tracking, lead generation, follow-up, appointment setting, billing automation. And actually they came to me first because they had a bunch of people on installment plans, and they had to go through a lot of manual effort to collect payments every month. And if a payment failed, they would have to, keep track of which ones failed and make a bunch of phone calls and stuff. And so actually their initial need was, hey, we need to automate billing. So I introduced them to Infusionsoft and said, yeah, it's got billing automation, but that's like a secondary feature. It's a marketing automation platform. But yeah, we'll solve your billing automation. But then, hey, what's going on with the leads that you generate? How do they come in? What do you do with them? How do you make sure that the maximum number of people show up to see you? What do you do for the people who don't show up? Are you following up with this? And so we started talking about all of these opportunities for improvement. And so we kept doing some stuff. So basically, prior to the implementation of Infusionsoft, they were doing $2 million in annual revenue. And then over the last 5 years, we've bumped them up year after year after year to last year, their total revenue was over 16 million. So
16 million bucks from $2 million through refined efficiencies and processes. That is amazing.
Yeah, and they went from like around 17 total employees, like 2 or 3 attorneys, and then a lot of paralegals and just admin staff, up to over 150 users now in the system. So big growth.
Yeah, mind-blowing. So really incredible. So what we're talking about is automation in regards to marketing, in regards to requests, the things we need from the clients, to scheduling, to billing, and staying in front of them and letting them know that, hey, the money that they are sending on a subscription or one-time pay or whatever, of the vast amount of different options that your system provides, and we can talk about that. It's really mind-blowing how comprehensive this singular solution is. Also in reflecting, there are, in your list of services, it seems long enough to give someone that doesn't know what they're looking at a nosebleed. It's like how many different options that are in there of different legal services or different aspects of those legal services are covered. I don't even understand what I'm looking at when I go into your system in regards to the legalese of all the different options that people have. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, you mean like in terms of the product mix?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that has really helped, and I think would help a lot of attorneys, um, is that these guys don't do business based on time for money. They're not billing by the hour. They have flat rate services, and for the longest time they had maybe like 50 different products oriented around helping people with certain immigration situations. It's one thing that the law firm has done really, really well is focus. They don't even do all immigration law. From a business model standpoint, you see a lot of different lawyers out there who say that they do personal injury and they do family law and they do like several different areas of specialty. And I think they feel like um, they have to do all these different areas of law because somebody might want one of the things that they can do, and therefore need to say that they can do it, otherwise they're going to lose out. And I think that keeps them small because they're not specializing, they're not showing the world through their marketing efforts that this is really their claim to fame. My client is like, we help with these specific types of immigration situations. We don't help with other areas of law, and we don't help with even these other areas of immigration law. They really focused on a narrow set of things and and therefore all of their marketing messages and their Facebook activity and their blog articles and everything could all be very, very focused on that one thing. And as a result, they've come to dominate their market for those particular services. Now, over time, they're gradually starting to add more areas of it, but that's because they now have the resources to also be really, truly excellent in those areas of law. And they have lawyers that have come in who are true experts in those areas. But a small law firm, you really can't be a jack of all trades, and you shouldn't be a jack of all trades. And the secret to success seems to be, instead of doing more, do less. So it also becomes easier to train your sales staff on what you do, right? So that's another area. It's like when a client comes in, they do meet with an attorney, and the attorney knows that specific area of law. And then in some of our larger branches, they'll then talk with a different person about the financial arrangements. But that all along the way, people are going to have follow-up questions about the specific products that they're buying. And it's just easier to train everybody on how to communicate what the services are, why they are the price that they are, and how that's a good value. And then it's easy to train up the staff on being able to truly be excellent at delivering those legal services. And so specialization was one area that they were already doing. It had nothing to do with me, but it's really paid off for them.
Yeah, this system seems to me to be the perfect fusion of what we're all seeking for, especially when we're talking about comprehensive SaaS for operational efficiency as far as running a company. Ultimately, it's accomplished the goal of making life tremendously easier on the firm itself, how they operate, how they're able to track all the things that they're spending tons of manual time. I mean, if you're using a spreadsheet for anything other than utilizing it really as a report in this day and age, a method of being able to look at data, if you're like running your business off of a spreadsheet, might be time to take a look at something, some automation. But, on the flip side, it's smooth for the firm, but also for, in this case, the immigrants or the people that are trying to to live legally here in the United States. Quite frequently, there's communication issues, as you've already pointed out. Many of them aren't using email. You've got to have sort of multi-channel methods of being able to communicate. Remind people when it's a manual situation when to communicate and how to communicate, and also with the billing, you know, a lot of these people, they aren't coming into the United States with a ton of money, you know. They're struggling to survive when they get over here because they're basically having to work in illegal channels because they don't have a, you know, a social and you know, and so they're struggling to care for their families, to care for themselves, and to make things legal. So your system is really lent a long ways to whereas, hey, if you've got a couple $100 or you have a very limited amount of money to get started, you can get started and really the system will stay with you, keep you notified, and follow you through the process and just a myriad of options in regards to payment structures and schedules. Can you break down? I know that was a mouthful. I just sort of laid out the whole thing there, but you know, just maybe on the customer experience, what, you know, what they're seeing and what their options are, because I'll bet you a lot of people that are watching this have scenarios to where they could take advantage of opportunity with certain people that maybe need a versatile payment structure program, and how you thought through that, all of that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so when people come in for help, as I said, we retain folks for one or more flat rate legal services that apply to their particular situation. And a lot of times they can't pay the entire amount right then and there, but they do want to get started on the case. And so, of course, we're sensitive to that, and we want to help as many people as we can, and we don't want finances to be a barrier. I keep saying we, it's really my client, but like I've been so integrally, I have been so tightly involved with them for this many years. I keep saying we, even though this year I'm now branching out and helping out other law firms who want to achieve similar results with similar strategies and tactics. Nonetheless, when I say we, I really mean they. We never wanted people to feel like finances were going to be a barrier. And so we wanted people to know that we'll come up with a payment plan that works for you. Now, obviously, we can't stretch it out forever, but we wanted to have flexible payment plans. And so we have people come in, and it's important that they give us some sort of a down payment to show that they're really genuinely retaining us. We can't retain them for $0. And the more of that down payment we can get, the sooner that we can get started on the real work of the case. So, so we communicate with them about, look, give us a down payment. We can get your file started. We can start requesting information from the government about what they know about you, what your true situation is. And we can start collecting money from you, or not money, we can start collecting information from you, the detailed discovery part of the case. So we can get started on your case with a down payment and then take monthly payments over time that'll always be due, you know, in the middle of the following month, and then monthly after that. And we can do it in any sort of way, shape, or form, because one of the things that we built custom with the API is a tool that helps us adjust the down payment, adjust the number of payments that'll be collected. We can do a finance charge if we want to. But really, it's just all about finding something that works for people. So we'll start with, you know, $500 down and then 6 months of payments. Will that work for you? Well, I can't pay quite that much. All right, how about if we break it down over 9 months? And to do that, you can do that natively in Infusionsoft, but it's more steps and it takes a little bit of time to actually see what those monthly payments will be and so on. So if I were to try to do it without the custom built tool we did, I would either have a cheat sheet and a chart there, or I'd be using a calculator, and then I'd go in and I'd enter in the order. But we soon developed a tool that we could use to streamline the whole retaining process and update Infusionsoft all along the way, so that our post-consultation marketing activities could be appropriate if the person didn't retain, but really just to streamline the process for those who did want to retain. And that way we could see more potential clients with fewer attorneys, which kept the costs down and allowed us to be just a very high volume law firm. Did I get lost on what
Incredible.
you were talking about?
No, you're right on point. So um, ultimately, on the fly, a representative of the firm can adjust and customize a payment plan that is specific to that client's needs. So if they're working with thousands of clients at a time, now ideally you want to follow some semblance of order with payment structures, but literally with Chris's system, you could have 1,000 different payment structures that are spread out of different amounts of money for different amount of times. And the cool thing is if they set that payment structure, this is one thing that I like. Things change in people's lives. They lose jobs, things go crazy. They can set up a payment plan, and then as long as they're in communication with the firm, they can call in and then have that readjusted as they're going through the process. So it's like really, I mean, money's never convenient, but as convenient as money can be to these people in need, you know, it's there for them and it's very flexible. And I think that in this day and age, it would be great in many different scenarios to see that sort of flexibility in regards to payment. I mean, what do big companies care as long as at the end of the day, they're going to be getting what's due to them? You know, does it really matter that it's 9 months instead of 6 months or whatever? Once you get to a certain point of volume, it's about just keeping the flow of the people, satisfied customers and referrals coming through. And I guarantee once you've made a few adjustments to someone, made life easier on them, guess what? When they tell their friend, to your point, hey, you know what? I screwed it up. You know, I lost my job and I went back to them and they worked this out. I mean, they're totally the people you need to be connecting with. I can just see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say, like, the real power behind all of this is Infusionsoft. You know, I mean, yes, we've done a lot of development to maybe streamline the interface and everything else, but it is Infusionsoft that has the payment plans and always has had those payment plans. So
Right.
I want to make sure that as much of what we say on our talk here today is something that can benefit all the users that might be watching this. You know, I want to talk about things that they can use without investing the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have into custom development. You know what I'm saying? But then also maybe highlight some things that may require that, and then, you know, they can reach out to your team if they need help with that.
Yeah, and it's a great point, you know, but the thing and a testament to Infusionsoft, and as long as we're talking about it, is that the access, the open API, and what we're able to influence to take that system a little bit or a lot beyond its capacity is a testament to that company and the access that they give us. Because, you know, it's a lot of times just the bare bones system works for, you know, 90% of what we want to do in marketing automation. It's already there. But for big volume or these specialized types of applications like you and I are talking about, you got to take it to the next level. So it is cool, and we've done a lot of customization of that system, and it doesn't have, and that even the customization aspect of it doesn't have to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, some projects do cost hundreds of thousands of dollars when you work over them and develop them and evolve them over years. You know, it's hours and hours of development and thought and vision go into those products.
Yeah, but the thing is that you are getting ROI all along the way. It's not like you say, oh, hey, we're going to go spend $300,000. Maybe eventually that happens, but really at first it was $10,000 or something like that for something that was really critical. And then you decide to invest a little bit more money in something else and so on. And so all along the way, I mean, as we have grown these law firms, or it's a group of law firms, but I'll just say the law firm because they're all basically the same. As we've grown them, each step along the way, we've looked at what is really holding things back right now. Because you can spend a whole bunch of money on marketing trying to grow your firm, but if your team can't handle serving new clients, then all you're going to do is create a disaster, right? So there are times when you need to stop focusing on marketing and sales and focus on operations, right? Then you get operations up to speed, you help some efficiencies there, And it could be anything from helping the existing people get more done, or depending on what type of business you are, outsourcing the fulfillment of a particular product. Or it could be that you have, you need simply more people. And so you might develop something like an automated tool to help you hire people better and screen people better, and then get those new people trained better through like some sort of a membership site that's aimed towards employees that teaches the new employees how things work, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes you're focusing on the operations side. Once you get that thing dialed in, then you take a look at what's my deal now? Am I not getting enough leads for the sales team? Or is the sales team getting plenty of leads but not doing a great job converting them? Which thing do we want to work on? And so you're constantly moving around the whole customer life cycle, right? The whole perfect customer life cycle is basically, it encompasses not just new leads, but all the way through fulfillment and getting referrals and everything in between, right? And so you have to make sure that you're focusing on the right part of that and complete a project, get some ROI, and then figure out where's the next constraint and spend your time and money there. So that's one thing we've done pretty successfully.
Yeah, as already shared, from going from $2 million to $16 million, there's certainly some development reinvestment money in that journey, that should be allocated and available. One thing that a lot of people deal with that is handled in your legal system is also scheduling. Can you share a little bit of the nuances? Because just similarly to payment structure, we've already established that, particularly in immigration law, but it could be with humans, there's inevitably difficulty in scheduling, cancellations, rescheduling, outcomes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've handled this very elegantly. Maybe you could break this apart for us a little bit.
For sure. Well, first of all, we have used Appointment Core for all of our scheduling capabilities. And then we've done some interesting things with Appointment Core that are maybe not necessarily out of the box. I'm trying to think of something that could be valuable for people. I will say this. If you use Appointment Core, one thing you need to know about them in their current state is that they have a lot of different hidden features that they purposely hide from the UI because they don't want to overwhelm people. But if you have a particular need, and I must say their documentation leaves a little bit to be desired as well. But the tool itself is amazing, and what it can do is amazing, and they have a really good team. And so first, you'd want to explore using that tool. Then communicate to them what your particular scheduling needs are. And if it's not obvious how to implement what you want, they probably have a way of doing it. And they may have to turn on a particular feature to make it happen. So that's one thing. Trying to think of what else we could say about it that wouldn't be, one thing that we've had to do is we've had to build some stuff with custom programming to make it easy for like our call center to be able to handle canceling meetings on behalf of clients or rescheduling meetings on behalf of clients, because the tool is really built as like a self-scheduling tool with the assumption that people are going to come to your website, schedule a meeting for themselves, and then if they need to cancel or reschedule, they'll just go to their email, click on the appropriate link, and do that. And it's great for that. But in our situation, we have people calling us and they need to schedule an appointment, either for an initial consultation or for one of the attorneys. And it's a lot of different people. And so we had to do some things to allow the call center to be able to easily have all the appropriate booking links easily available, and also not schedule people for the wrong type of meeting. If we have someone new in the call center, we need to make sure that they don't accidentally schedule an existing client for an initial consultation, right? Or conversely, schedule a client meeting with someone who hasn't even retained us yet. And so we have built in some tools that have helped us kind of keep track of all of that. In about the middle of us using their tool, they did introduce something called multi-service booking links, which are something we make more use of now. And that's a good feature to use, where you basically can, it's like a link to a bunch of links. So instead of sending somebody 17 different booking links, hey, if you want to schedule with one of our people, you know, here's all the links for all of our people. You can now build a multi-service booking link where you kind of group all of those. They also have an ability to set up a similar thing with just a single booking link, where you can say, I want the person to be able to schedule with any one of these people, and they can choose it. And you could have a single booking link that dictates like your office hours and the location that people are coming to. But then each of those 17 different people can have their own schedule that they manage inside their own user account. So I guess I would just really say that their tool can do just about anything, but it may not be obvious that it can. So check them out, develop a relationship with them. Their support people are really friendly and they want to help people accomplish their goals. And it goes all the way up to the CEO. So ask them how you can do what you want to do. One thing that I've had to do programmatically is if you Appointment Core can send out reminders itself, but it can't be bilingual. So if you sent them from there, you would have to send a single message in both English and Spanish, right? We didn't want that. We wanted to send in someone's preferred language. And so we would set up Appointment Core that immediately after someone schedules, it would kick off an API goal, which would then go to an Infusionsoft campaign. And then we could have a decision diamond seeing as the preferred language, English or Spanish, and then go into the right sequence to send things in the right language.
Yeah, that's great. And I will attest to Appointment Core. We've used it thousands of times in projects, and Benji, the owner, and Jonathan, who I think is the CEO now of the company, are both very, very helpful. They're really interested in their product. One of the rules at GetUWired, which I think you follow as well, Chris, is that any third-party application, plugin, or anything I use, the system needs to be efficient, first of all. That's the first bar that it crosses. It needs to be in alignment with my core values in regards to how I want to serve my customers. And thirdly, I need to know the person that owns the software to where I can pick up my mobile phone and call them if I'm in a jam or a weekend. So
right.
all the softwares we've talked about today, both you and I have someone on our mobile phones that we can call that is an authority that can get in there and help us. And they do.
Yeah.
And that's a real important thing. And you're right, behind the scenes of Appointment Core is a whole suite of incredible features and tools that would give any normal person, not a guy like Chris Austin here, but any normal person, a nosebleed. There's so many of them. So yeah, they've trimmed it down to what.
Give me a nosebleed too. I go through learning curves just like everybody else. I mean, I only know the stuff that I know because I've hit myself in the forehead with a 2x4 so many times, you know? I mean, there's nothing magic about me. I've just been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
Another tool like that I'll mention is Plus This. And I use Plus This a little bit with Appointment Core because, you know, I don't want a client or potential client to have a situation where they have to go in and choose, hey, which of these 17 people should I meet with, right? And so I tried to build as much intelligence into the different systems as I could. So, for instance, if someone came into a particular office, then I know that if they want to come back, then they need to meet with someone in that office. And I shouldn't show them people from other offices. Secondly, if I know that they met with a particular person before, they should meet with them as well. And that stuff is within my system. And so we used Plus This Smart Links quite a bit, so that a person, when they want to schedule a follow-up meeting, they can click on a link, and the link actually goes to a Plus This Smart Link, which then looks up certain things in the system and then directs them exactly to the one booking link that they need to book the appointment with the person that they need. So using those two tools together has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Plus This, ladies and gentlemen, if you're unfamiliar with it, check it out. It's another situation of, we know the guys that own the company. You know, Bryce runs the company. Great guy, very helpful, very interested in his clientele. They go above and beyond for everybody, not just like their top clients or stuff. And the amount of features that expand the feature set and usability of Infusionsoft, of Ontraport, of ActiveCampaign. I can't remember whether they're attached to HubSpot or not. They may or may not be, but they're interconnected with a lot of different systems. Just a really thoughtful system. And it's been around, it's been evolving for, gosh, how many years? Like 7 years, 6, 7 years, Chris? Something like that?
Yeah, I think since 2012.
Yeah. Well, they can thank us for this little ad, you know.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Bryce.
Yeah, for sure. And Dave.
Dave Lee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bryce is in the shop. Dave Lee is out snowboarding somewhere, you know.
Probably. But he probably sold Plus This and Infusionsoft to the guy next to him on the lift.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's cool. Let's you know, we've got a few minutes left, and one thing that is interesting that I'd like to share. So a lot of our audience are either existing customers or perhaps potential customers of GetUWired, and this isn't necessarily meant as a pitch or a opening or avenue to selling GetUWired. But one thing that I'm interested in, and this may be helpful to anybody, regardless of what agency or what bureau you work with. Chris Austin here is a very capable person that's very capable of running his own team, of hiring his own people. Basically, everything that we do here at GetUWired, he has done it for himself on his own without outside influences or agency wrapped around it other than what he's created. At some juncture, he decided to engage GetUWired and work with us, even though he has all that capacity. What advice could you give someone as far as that point? Like you're a DIY guy all day long. What's your thought process around going outside and enlisting agency or a group like GetUWired or another group? Sure.
Well, it kind of goes back to specialization. When in the early years of me being a consultant, we worked with a lot of different types of clients. Really our target market as an agency was people who were already using Infusionsoft. We wanted to help them get more out of it. And I knew that I needed in-house development capabilities to be able to deliver on some of the promises that we wanted to make. And so for a while, I had a firm with my own in-house development team, plus me, a few other people, and it was great. We kind of developed a reputation as the guys who could do the impossible, which was quite the ego boost for a while. And then I realized we were getting the hardest projects possible, and that's not necessarily a very profitable place to be. And then I started helping these law firms, and I did it with in-house development talent. And halfway through that, several years into it, I moved to a different place in Florida and was no longer side by side with my developer. And we started running into some issues, and And I just realized that I couldn't do it all. And also the company, the client was growing so big and the needs were growing so large. I felt like I really needed a team, but I didn't have enough programming need to be able to add a second and third developer myself. I just needed, I needed to plug into a team like yours that does development all day, every day, and already has the team. So I started talking with you about taking over development work so that I could focus much more on strategy and less on project management of development work. And it took a while, but we eventually started working together, and it's been a really great relationship. Because I'm able to plug in, even if I wanted to have my own in-house developers, if I don't want to have a whole team of them, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Just because I can do it doesn't mean that I should do it. Because Infusionsoft is still a fairly small market, right? And so if I'm going to hire my own person, I can hire a PHP developer, I can hire someone who specializes maybe in WordPress, but most of the time, if they're going to still be affordable, they're going to have just a passing knowledge of Infusionsoft, if that. And so there's a very significant learning curve on the Infusionsoft API. And someone who needs to really be a good Infusionsoft API developer needs to also know what Infusionsoft can do natively from the inside, right?
Right.
And a lot of times when you bring on a new developer, and I had a lot of experience with a lot of different folks, they would want to program things that would take 5 hours of development to do something that could be done with an action set inside of Infusionsoft if you know about the existence of action sets. Know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm kind of going around the loop. You also want someone that not only knows the API and the inside of Infusionsoft, but they should also have knowledge of all the different third-party resources that are out there. Because again, why develop and maintain something when you could go get it for, you know, a fairly minor subscription fee from someone who is really taking care of the maintenance of that thing on the inside? Like, we could have built our own scheduling tool, right? But it would have taken a lot of time, money, and effort. And there's always maintenance on it. Software is never, ever truly done where you can just set it and forget it, because there's always things changing out there, right? So a lot of times, so you want to work with a team or a developer who knows all those different things. You also want to make sure that when you are working with a developer, that you don't have a single point of failure, right? Where if that person gets hit by a bus or decides to move on to a different opportunity, you know, what's going to happen then? Do you want to get someone from scratch developed from the beginning? Then it's difficult. So I was attracted to the fact that you guys have a whole team of people that know all of this stuff and know it to the degree that I just specified. The other really great thing about working with you guys is that, you know, I have the project manager, Chris Jonassy, and every week we have these meetings where we go over what's been done, what needs to be done. Are there any new things that are jumping the priority list or anything like that? And like between those meetings, I don't need to communicate a lot. I don't need to do the project management because he's doing it for me. I don't have to wonder if development is actually being done or if, you know, right? And I can make and I can make sure that the development is actually focused on the priorities that we set ahead of time. And that just takes a lot of burden off of my plate, where I can focus on the what and not necessarily the how, and strategy instead of the little tactical details of development. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and you got a real dandy of a project manager there, the Chris Jonassy. You know, he handles a lot of business for us and has done an exceedingly incredibly good job over the years that I've been honored to work with him. So so that's really cool. Well, we're really at the top of the hour. Chris, I appreciate you coming on and supporting the Cabin Signal, getting useful and entertaining content out to our list, both our email list and our social strata. And we're just honored to be friends and cohorts with you. And I look forward to seeing you up here at the cabin with your family here in this month.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to coming up.
All right,
a good time when I come up there.
Yeah, this time I'll try not to drown you again.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I do want to say, like, a little tip for those of you who follow Dobbin on Instagram or Facebook, and you see him catching all of these huge fish. I will say that, like, I did learn that, like, the secret to his success is that he'll catch a fish that's about this big, but what he does is he holds it up to the camera like this so that you think, oh my God, what a giant fish.
Blasphemy. He's just angry because he caught a fish at my place, and I was like, I wanted to get the perfect shot, and I was like, oh dude, it was really cold. It was winter.
It was like 33 degrees in your stream.
Yeah, I was like, back up just a little bit. And I didn't realize there was like a boulder behind him.
A giant
backed
one.
Up and went whoop right over all the way under the water. Freezing cold.
It was
He's
really
still my friend though.
Yeah, still friends. Yeah. But I'm a little bit more cautious about anything related to getting into your stream.
Yeah, you aren't the first casualty. Just ask our mutual friend Sarah Laws.
I know. I've heard, and I think she was just as upset.
Well, hey, thank you again, Chris. We appreciate it, and man, we'll be in touch. And I hope all of you have enjoyed this edition of the Cabin Signal. We're putting out fresh content every month. Our industry insiders, our expertise, and then also cultural information on what's going on inside the cabin. So enjoy. Thank you for attending, and see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Dobbin.